Welcome to another Mother Runner, your best running friend in podcast form. We do all the talking, even on the uphills. I'm your host, Sarah Bowen Shea, and I'm so pleased to be joined today by co-host Tish Hamilton, sporting some new glasses, looking very pretty. Tish, hello.
Hi, Sarah. How are you today?
Good. You had such a cute image, a little video on your Instagram recently.
The tiny turtle.
Yes.
Wasn't it so cute?
So cute.
I went to a turtle talk on Tybee on Tuesday. How's that for a lot of alliteration? And Tybee is the beach here in Savannah, the barrier island here. And Tybee is having a record year for turtle nests.
Oh.
And they have almost 50. And it's very exciting in the turtle community, apparently. Because it's loggerhead turtles and they are a threatened species.
Uh-huh.
And the conservation efforts have been going on for a long time, actually. And this is the biggest year. And I didn't know any of this until I went to my turtle talk. And what happens is the females come up onto the beach and they lay up to 100 eggs in a nest. And then about between 50 and 55 days later, the eggs hatch and the turtles come up and they look around and they try to find the ocean, and then they scurry down the beach to the ocean. And the person who was giving the talk said, that this nest had probably already hatched, but sometimes there's a straggler.
Okay.
And as he was talking, this little turtle popped up.
That's my cue. I gotta go.
Here I am. And it was low tide, so he had a really long way to go.
Oh my gosh. The little back of the pack turtle. He's like, I can do this.
He's total back of the pack. and he'd scurry up and down these little tiny, dents in the sand, and then he'd have to rest. And he got down to the ocean, and in the ocean, maybe it scared him a little bit. He started to go in, and he turned himself around and started to go back. And I was like, no, wrong way. Go in the water. It was really fun, and it was so adorable.
My goodness. And suddenly your whole heart is rooting for this little creature that
totally. And there were like 20 of us on this talk, and we were just like, it was just such a little moment of hope.
Yes.
It was just adorable, and you're cheering him on, and he made it across the finish line into the ocean. Yay, go turtle.
Oh my goodness, we all need bright spots like that in our lives these days.
It was really, really fun.
Oh my goodness. Well, I have some bright spots coming up. As this episode airs on July 31st, and on that day I'm flying back to Wichita, Kansas, because my son John is there, and he'll be performing in the third of his shows this summer, Fiddler on the Roof. And I am going by myself, so my husband Jack's not going with me, but I'm being joined by 3 mother runners / triathletes from Kansas City who are very graciously making the trek over. It's about, I guess, 2.5 hour drive, 3 hour drive. And we're going to spend the weekend there in Wichita together. One of them, Tiffany, is originally from Wichita. She's the person who put John in touch with the guy he's renting a room from in that guy's house. And so the gals and I have plans to play pickleball and to go swimming. And I think one of them, Laurel, who was on the show recently, she's going on a long run. And we're going to see the show on Saturday night, August 1st. And then I'll see it again on Sunday, August 2nd. And then on the 3rd, John and I start the very long drive in his car back to New Jersey, because he has to get it back to where he lives during the school year. So we are driving a very long drive the first day, and then taking a hiatus day in Chicago. He has a very good friend who graduated from college. And so he's going to spend a night and a day there at her house with her and her mom. And I'm seeing my best friend from college. And then we'll do another long drive the next day. But I'm particularly excited to see. Now, I've never seen Fiddler on the Roof. Have you seen it?
Seen Fiddler on the Roof. I've seen bits and pieces of it.
Yes, and certainly we all know
on
songs
media.
from it,
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, so there is this very famous dance in it called the bottle dance, and it's done at a wedding, and it is so the production that John's doing, they're doing the original choreography, which was by the famous choreographer Jerome Robbins, and this is when it was on Broadway. And so they do these four male dancers do the bottle dance where they balance an actual glass bottle on top of their heads. They're wearing bowler hats, and oftentimes there's a magnet in the hat and on the bottle that holds it there. No, 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 that's not how Jerome Robbins dancers did it, so that's not how these dancers are doing it.
Because that would be cheating.
Right. So John said that when he and I had talked, he was so far the only dancer who had not had it fall off his head before.
When it
And
falls off, does it shatter on the floor?
so he said it is covered in tape. It must be clear tape so that it doesn't,
Right.
There's no injuries
that would
or anything.
that would really slow down rehearsals.
Right, and suddenly someone in the
get
front
the
row
broom
is
again.
bleeding. Yeah. But the perhaps even more crazy thing is if the bottle does fall off their head during the show, the dancer who has dropped the bottle has to back up, like basically disappear on stage, and the person who takes over has to come in and immediately start dancing from where it's happened.
Where the other guy left off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So obviously they have to be following along from the wings.
Yes.
And know exactly where everything is.
Yes. So John said his secret is that all the other guys tilt their chin to keep their head level, but instead John raises his neck like his singing teacher taught him to do. And he said if he fully extends his neck, which I hope everyone now is trying to do that as they're running or doing laundry or whatever.
Or talking on a podcast.
Yes. He says that's like a factor that he can know, a position that he can know that he is exactly doing it. Whereas, is my chin tilted the right amount? Is it tilted a little to the left? Like, so that this is a control for him. So, yeah. So, and I sent you a video of it, and maybe I can link to it in the show notes. It's supposedly very tense for the audience members as well, because they know that at any moment.
Sure. You're waiting for that bottle to fall off.
Right. Come on, bottle, fall.
But that sounds like such a great weekend, Sarah. You're doing all your favorite things. You've got pickleball, you've got pool swimming, you've got another mother runner friends, you got your son performing.
It is. It's going to be spectacular. We're just going to sweat our brains out, but other than that, it's going to be fabulous.
And there's the drive to Chicago, but
yes. I'm trying to see that, that's quality time with John, one-on-one time with him. Although he is typically, when we did this last year from Lexington, Kentucky, where he was performing, to Jersey, that was just a one-day drive. He slept solidly the first 3 hours, and then he was working very hard on an Instagram dump, how the kids all have to do,
right.
On the grid. So anyway, all right, so that's what I'm going to be up to this weekend as people are listening. And so today we're busting some running myths. Our guest is the person who suggested this clever topic, and you might remember her from an episode last September featuring Coach Jen Harrison, talking about her own amazing comeback from a pretty horrific injury. So the guest is Coach Jen's physical therapist, Denise Smith. Denise is the founder of Smith Physical Therapy and Running Academy in Crystal Lake, Illinois. She's a runner and a triathlete, a mom of 2 kids. I'm so delighted to be talking with you again, Denise.
Hi, I'm very excited to be here, so thank you for hosting me.
So Denise, you are the founder of Physical Therapy and a Running Academy. So start by telling us about how you got into running.
So I ran in high school and middle school, and then I did it in college just for fun and health. And when I started working in outpatient sports medicine facilities as I graduated from PT school, runners kept showing up on my schedule, and I realized that I knew a lot about being a runner, but I didn't know a lot about treating runners. So then I started taking a bunch of continuing education classes and getting into the biomechanics of running, and that's where I really geeked out on understanding how technique could help runners, because a lot of times as PTs, we treat the injury we see, they get better, they go back to running, and the injury comes back. And so that's when I was like, there's clearly something I'm missing in understanding technique. So once I started taking classes like the pose method, I have a wonderful mentor named Dr. Nicholas Romanoff. That education side of it really helped me bring it all together so I could help runners prevent injuries from coming back, which is what I love to do.
Nice.
How did you decide to start your own physical therapy and running academy?
Well, I worked for a large corporate facility or company, and they decided to get rid of the running program because it was preventing injuries. And it was a business move. I get it, but they had said they make more money when people get hurt, so they decided to cancel our preventative program. Which again, it was a business decision. I understand. So I called my husband, bawled all the way home, and he said, let's talk about it when you get home. So he met me at the door with a glass of wine, and 2 bottles of wine later, we had decided Smith Physical Therapy and Running Academy was meant to be. So that's how
And it still seemed like a good idea the next morning.
Yes. Sometimes I feel like I should drink to still think it's a good idea, but
So and what prompted you to suggest this topic? I mean, was there wine involved? No, I suspect it was born out of comments that you hear from clients.
Yeah, the stuff we were talking about today is about 90% of what I spend my time talking to runners about. And so I just thought, if we could just get rid of some of these old school thoughts, which I mean, it's runners want to run, and so they'll do anything to try to get better. And so I was like, if we could just get some of these myths to go away, it would save a lot of time and effort on everybody's part.
Just refer them all to this episode of the podcast, and
All right, here we go then. We're going to start with a good one. Stretching prevents injuries.
So I think stretching is a little misunderstood. And people think that, well, I don't stretch enough. That's why I'm not flexible. And there is a little bit of truth to that. But stretching and mobility really are key components. So mobility is where you're working your joints, range of motion of your joints. So most people now know that you shouldn't stretch before you run, but a lot of people don't know that you should do mobility work before you run. So it's not just leg swings. It's things like deep squats to like get your butt down to the ground to try to get that hip to open up, or lunging to one side to get the inside of the hip joint to move, or that runner's lunge where you're getting the front of the hip. So even moving your spine around. So a lot of people don't realize that your shoulders need some mobility before you run. There's about a 2-minute routine I give to most of my runners before they go. And it just helps their joints move better, which then helps your muscles move better. And people also don't realize that stretching, yes, is very beneficial, and it doesn't need to be done right after your run. It could be done anytime before you go to bed that day. Because sometimes it's hard. You get up, you have like 30 minutes to get your run in, and you got to shower and get the kids to school. And so you don't always have time to stretch. And so they think, well, I just don't ever stretch. Well, I would rather that later on that night, when you're having a glass of wine, talking with your husband, recapping your day, get on the floor and do some stretches then. It's just as beneficial to do it after the run, even 12 hours later. So it's not going to prevent an injury, but that in combination with some mobility work can keep you that can actually be what's preventative.
Okay. So this next one I can imagine hearing coming out of the mouth of a less expert PT, perhaps, which is your glutes/hamstrings, insert muscle here, just isn't firing, or you have weak fill in the blank.
Yeah. And you know what? I said this too. I said this before I really understood gravity and how gravity affects our running. So you can't just say, I mean, there's very well-meaning PTs who say things like, well, your glutes just aren't firing. Well, you can't just turn your glutes on and off. You can't just look behind and be like, turn on, turn on. So you have to get your hips into the right position to be able to get your glutes to fire. So a lot of times it's simply where your pelvis is or not bending at the waist to get your muscles to actually have a proper position to fire strong, to have good contraction.
And is that, how can people work on getting those things to fire without, perhaps seeing a PT? Is there, some exercises you suggest, or what? What's the remedy?
My favorite one is called a wall fall. And what a wall fall is you are standing about a foot away from the wall and you are falling into it. You're going to catch yourself and push yourself back. This was designed by Dr. Romanoff that I talked about earlier. It's reminiscent of that music video by Michael Jackson, Smooth Criminal, where he's falling forward. His ankles are where the movement is coming from, not his hips or his waist. So he's not bending at the waist. He's moving his whole body forward, and the ankles are the pivot point. That's what should happen when we run, is that we're using gravity to help us. We're getting our hips and our pelvis forward, and that actually allows muscles like our hamstrings and our glutes to actually have maximum power.
All right, this one I think might be a wish fulfillment lie that runners tell themselves, which is just rest for a few days and everything will be fine.
Well, have you ever had an injury and you rest a couple days and you go back and run again and then the injury comes back? So that's rest is good. I mean, everyone should take a recovery day. And by recovery, I mean, you just don't run. So a recovery day is important, but resting it doesn't fix a problem. If there's an acute sprain, so maybe you twisted your ankle, yes, you need to come off of it or not put stress to it. But if this is just a random tendon injury that cropped up, or you're having some low back pain, there wasn't an injury that went along with it, nothing traumatic. Rest usually doesn't fix a problem because it wasn't a result of something that was out of your control. So like you didn't twist your ankle. Rest is allowing the system to calm down, but as soon as you put stress back on the system, it's going to come back. So you have to figure out what the cause is, not just the symptoms. So if you're getting some kind of tendonitis, or maybe let's take plantar fasciitis, that's always the one. People will take a couple of days off when their heel is starting to hurt, but they're not looking at the cause of the heel pain. It might not be as simple as I just need to stretch my calf. It might be that you actually have a low back problem, or you are twisting through your hip that you don't realize you're doing when you're running, and that's actually causing irritation through the whole system. So just taking a few days off isn't going to fix that complex case, but you could always try it, but don't be frustrated if it doesn't work.
All right, PT Denise Smith will bust more myths after this sponsor break. Okay, the next one is ice fixes everything, so tell us why ice shouldn't necessarily be our go-to.
I do feel like people are starting to move away from this a little bit. That whole ice compression, elevation, that ice method, people are realizing that it's not always the best fix, especially with ankle sprains now. So ice can definitely calm something down. If you have a tendon that's mad, if your knee is swollen, sure, throw some ice. You're not going to hurt yourself by putting ice on it unless you have a sensitivity to something that cold. But it's not going to fix it. Ice will not, again, using that kind of complex case of why someone has knee pain. Ice may temporarily make it feel better, but ice isn't going to fix why the knee pain is occurring. So use it, but don't look at it as a solution to the problem.
All right, Denise, is this one a myth or is this a truth? You should never run through pain.
This can be both. If you are having, it's a PT's favorite answer. It depends. That's what we always say. Well, it depends. So if you are running through some kind of pain that is severe, or it's causing tingling or numbness, or it's making you want to stop, do not run through that pain because you could make something worse. But if you have some type of soreness, I think some people have they have a complicated relationship with pain. They might have some soreness. Maybe they lifted the day before and they're running and their quads are sore and they think, all right, I should stop. My quads are sore. That's not the same thing as pain that makes you want to stop. That is delayed onset muscle soreness, and your muscle actually wants to move and it will feel better if you keep running. So the key factor for me is if it makes you want to stop or it's getting worse, you should definitely stop then. And pain's a liar. So just because I have pain in my knee doesn't mean that's where my problem is. But if that knee pain is worsening with each step, or the shin splint, it's getting worse and worse, and now the pain is lingering with things like going down the stairs, or I feel it even 2 days later, those are key indicators that there's something wrong in the system. But you just have to learn to distinguish the difference between what is soreness and what is severe pain.
Yeah, it's that lingering pain and mobility, the kind of the then hinky stride for the rest of the day. That type of stuff is what I find more common as I age. Um, so this next line was one I heard repeatedly when I attended a high school reunion shortly after running the Big Sur Marathon, which I was, walking around proudly boasting about. And every single one of my former classmates just replied, "Oh, running ruins your knees." I'm like, "Come on, people! Like, give me some love here. I just did Big Sur." And so stand by me on this one, Denise. They were wrong, right?
They were wrong. Research has shown, and I can get you some studies if you want to see, that it does not. Running itself does not cause ruin, like a damage to your knees and hips. Running the wrong way can. So if you are putting too much stress on your joints, yes, your cartilage can start breaking down. Your bones can start taking some impact. Shin splints that turn into stress fractures are a classic example of you can ruin a very good bone with poor technique. But if you are careful, if you're doing your strength training, if you are doing your mobility work and your recovery work and taking care of your body, you can run well into your 80s, 90s. There's 100-year-olds that are still running.
I hear that one all the time too, Sarah. And especially, with each passing year, oh, how are your knees? How is your back? How are your hips? I'm like, they're fine.
They're fine. Thank you very much.
Don't ask me about my feet, though. Okay, speaking of feet, runners often turn to gear for answers. And, like, I just need new shoes, I need orthotics. And we hear, like, you hear these adages about you should replace your shoes, X number of miles, or X number of months. Like, what is, like, set the record straight on shoes and orthotics for us, please.
Well, shoe companies are geniuses. That's all I'm going to say. They have got their marketing down. They've convinced all of us that we have limited miles that we can run on. And shoes are a piece of equipment. Shoes will not fix your technique. They may make you more aware of what you're doing, especially if you're running in something with less cushioning, or they may hide something if you're running in something with a lot of cushioning. You run on a bag of gummy bears with some of these really thick, cushiony shoes, and you're not going to feel anything, but it doesn't mean that there's still not a problem. So the shoe companies have gotten very good at of building things up to make us think we're doing really well. So, and then when all of a sudden things start hurting, they're like, "Oh, you just need new ones." And you spend another $200 on a pair of shoes. Or now here, let's put some carbon plates in the bottom, or let's create a rocker bottom, and now you'll suddenly be faster. So they've gotten very good at marketing. So do shoes break down? Yes. Just like any other piece of equipment. It's usually the foam on the inside that starts to wear away. Depending on if you wear a shoe that's maybe a shoe to stop supination, they have different types of foam on different pairs of on different parts of the shoe, maybe different densities to prevent rotation and movement. And so some of those foam, some of the types of foam may break down faster than others. If you start noticing an actual wearing away of the fabric, or on the inside or the outside of the bottom of the shoe, you're actually seeing damage develop, yes, you probably need to get new shoes because you don't want to be running on something that is breaking down. But if you keep noticing you have the same wear pattern on your shoes and it happens faster than you think for investing $150 to $200 on a pair of shoes, you might want to work on your technique to prevent that excessive wear and tear. And orthotics have their place too. Sometimes we need a little bit of support, but the podiatrist will tell you should be like living in your orthotics, which I love podiatrists. I'm not bashing them. It's just their philosophy. Whereas my philosophy is there's no other body part that we brace all the time. So why are we wearing orthotics? every part of every day and never allowing our feet to actually move and strengthen and do all the things that we would have any other body part do that isn't a brace.
Mm, mm, mm. Interesting. I love how now you've pointed out that some big physical therapy places are trying to, market to runners in a specific way and the running shoes, and suddenly it's like, oh, they're all out to get us.
They're not out to get us. They are trying to be
Uh,
helpful, but I think that it is a moneymaker.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah. That's capitalism
Yeah.
right there. Oh, okay, so I hope this fallacy is on the wane since people are wising up to the importance of strength training. But what do you say in the face of the assertion strength training makes runners slow or strength training will make me bulk up?
If you are purposely trying to do bodybuilding, so you are changing your diet to be only high protein, you are lifting heavy 6 days a week, you're doing drop sets, you're doing all these things to actually like build muscle, maybe. But most of us runners want to just do body weight, or we are willing to lift heavy, but we're only lifting heavy 1 or 2 days a week. You're not going to bulk up. You might tone up, but really strength training is designed to be body armor. So you want to protect yourself from an injury. You want to perform better. Strength training is the answer for you. So I just think that runners have misconceptions, especially some very well-meaning cross-country coaches out there. They say things like, well, I got to build the base for my runners. You can't build a base on a skeletally immature 14-year-old who's never run this many miles in a week before and not expect some breakdown to happen because they're so weak. So strength training can actually make them better runners. It can make them faster because now they have support behind movement. They have support to fight the natural forces that are working on our bodies. That ground reaction force, when your foot hits the ground, you better be strong enough to tolerate that, or you're going to start having breakdowns in the tendons or in the bones. And that's where stress fractures happen, or stress reactions, or tendonitis starts to develop because the joints, the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons, all of it just aren't strong enough to tolerate that repetitive force.
And that's true for 55-year-old women as it is for 14-year-old high school cross country people.
Probably more for the 55-year-old woman than for the high school runner, because they, when you're 14, you have resiliency. But at 55, if you are postmenopausal and now you don't have enough bone density, that lack of estrogen, that lack of bone strength can actually cause very severe long-term fractures that take longer to heal than it would when you're 14.
So, Denise, you have referred a few times in this conversation to form and proper form. And it makes me wonder about a phrase that some people will sometimes say about taking long strides, stride it out, take long strides. What's up with that?
Well, that comes from, again, some very well-meaning coaches not understanding technique. So yes, people have long legs and they should use them, but taking a long stride causes overstriding, and overstriding causes excessive impact. So there's always debate in the literature about whether you should heel strike or midfoot strike or forefoot strike. So we tend to not argue that point, but the research does agree across the board that overstriding is bad. And overstriding means your foot is landing too far ahead of your body weight and the back foot is taking too long to get underneath you. So the idea of striding it out, taking these long strides, comes from coaches who are trying to cue their athletes to cover as much ground as possible in a short amount of time. And it's not the right cue. The cue should be get your hips forward, get your inner Michael Jackson to get your hips forward. Use gravity to help you. That will actually make you faster than striding it out, where now you're landing on a locked knee and a locked hip and a locked ankle, and now you're actually putting the brakes on.
All right, I think the subtitle for this episode is What Michael Jackson Could Teach Runners. So, all right. Okay. So I definitely had a coach in 2009 when I was writing a Runner's World feature for you, Tish, who subscribed to this belief: you need to run more to be a good runner. And her approach nearly broke me. Granted, I did set my marathon PR on that training cycle, but it was really a big fat training cycle for me. So what do you say, Denise, about you need to run more to be a good runner?
Time on feet is a real thing. Learning how, if you're running a marathon, I can see why people want to see if they can even run that distance, because a lot of it's just mental. So I understand the benefit of mileage and building up mileage to build confidence. But the thing that actually makes people a better runner isn't the actual mileage. Your body won't know the difference between running 20 miles and 26 miles. What your body will know the difference of is, are you weak enough? Are you so weak that you can't even tolerate being on your feet that long for 4, 5, 6 hours? So I would rather runners think, if I need to be a good runner, I need to be strong enough. I need to be mobile enough. I need to make sure I'm hydrated. I need to make sure I am sleeping. Sleeping is the big one. That's what makes you a good runner, is everything but running is what makes you a good runner. I use like Tom Brady as an example. Tom Brady doesn't just throw the football all day long. So he's a great quarterback, not because he's just throwing a football. He does everything else he has to do, and that's what makes him a great quarterback. Not just that he throws a ball every day for hours and hours and hours.
So, and of the things that you listed off, the being hydrated, the good sleep, do you think if you had to pinpoint one thing that ultimately is the reason people come to see you, why runners come to see you, need help from a PT, do you think there is one thing that we could, the biggest culprit?
Can I have two?
Yes, you can have two. Yes. All
Okay.
right. All right.
I would say strength and technique.
Hmm. Hmm. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think they're too weak. They don't have enough awareness of what movement should look like. And so if you are strong enough to be able to tolerate these positions for a long time, tolerate the forces that are acting on us when we run, and you understand how to move more efficiently, that's where I think the power is in preventing injuries, is giving your body enough support through strength training, but then also reducing their risk of an injury or improving performance by really focusing on the technique side of it.
All right. It's time for another short break. We'll do a bit of a lightning round when we return.
All right, Denise, you ready for a lightning round? We got a few quick ones here.
Sure.
Your take as a physical therapist. All
Yep.
right, ready? Here we go. Best recovery tool: foam roller, massage gun, lacrosse ball. Your choice.
I am going to do them. I'd like to add massage therapy in there. Massage therapy would be my number one. A really good massage therapist that you see every 4 to 6 weeks. You don't need to see them every week, but every 4 to 6 weeks, and in between, using, here's my order of preference, a lacrosse ball, then a foam roller, then a massage gun. Lacrosse balls can get very targeted where you need it to be, and can provide more of that kneading massage. So KNEAD, like you're kneading dough. Foam rolling is a little more fascial work. So the lacrosse ball gets deeper into the muscle, whereas the foam roller gets the fascia. Both are important. Massage guns, if you like that type of percussion massage where it's like hammering away, sometimes that can feel good in needy areas like your glutes or your hamstrings, but it doesn't always feel so good on like the bottom of your ankle or your shin. So it is personal preference, but if I had to choose, it would be a massage therapist every time, because you want that skilled person who's can follow the train. There's fascial trains. You may have some tightness in your plantar fasciitis, but the cause of it might be up behind your knee or into your hamstring or even your glutes. So a good massage therapist can follow that train and help you address the problem and not just the symptom.
And for that lacrosse ball, for folks who don't know, they are quite firm. They are a solid
Yeah.
ball. They are not a tennis ball by any means. And so we are largely talking about like it being beneath your body and the floor, right? So that it's really getting in there. Is that
Yep.
how you recommend using a lacrosse ball?
So some people will put a yoga block on the floor and then put the lacrosse ball on top of the yoga block to bring that lacrosse ball up towards their like calf, let's say. So just a little bit, it helps with positioning. It is a hard ball. You're right. Tennis balls are fine too, but lacrosse balls they're cheap. A lot of lacrosse players don't want the balls once they've lost their kind of stickiness, but runners love that. And so you can buy them really cheap at places like Play It Again Sports, or find a lacrosse player in your life and be like, hey, can I have all your, I think they call them shiners. Can I have all your used lacrosse balls you don't want anymore? So they're cheap.
That is a tip that has never been shared before on this podcast, so thank you. Okay, so we talked about ice earlier, but what about ice baths? So I used to swear by them maybe 15 years ago, but I feel that the thinking has changed on that. Am I right in that regard?
I think, again, with an acute injury, so you sprain your ankle, you twist your ankle in high heels or out dancing, go ahead and ice bath that. But it can be helpful if you can tolerate it. I can't do the plunge baths. I can't do any of that stuff. It's so cold for me. It's uncomfortable. So I think it actually makes things worse for me. And there is some research that's talking about those cold plunges for postmenopausal women not being very helpful. The research is still coming out on that, so do what you want with that. But I don't think, again, an ice bath would hurt. I don't think icing after you run is a bad thing. If it makes you feel good, sure. But is it going to fix your problem? No.
I am all on board with the research that says postmenopausal women don't have to do the ice baths. I've never been into the ice bath, Sarah. Although, if I had a cold creek running through my backyard, I could see getting in that. But I'm not putting myself in an ice bath. No way.
Oh, I just love it. It makes me feel so alive. I just adore it. Yeah.
Yeah, you do you. Not going to hurt you. All right. Next topic, treadmills. Treadmills, friend or foe?
Both. So I live in Illinois. So from about December to March, I cannot run outside. I don't like running when it's below 17 degrees. So the treadmill is my friend on those days. And I spend a lot of time in the winter working on my technique on the treadmill because it takes out a lot of the unknowns that happen. So, but if you are only running on the treadmill, you aren't learning the skill of how to use your body weight that happens when you run on the ground. So if you're a traveler, like my husband travels 5 days out of the week, he is using treadmills because sometimes the areas he's in aren't very safe. So it's fine. But don't only rely on the treadmill to make you believe you're a good runner. Get outside, learn how to actually navigate up and down hills, how to use sidewalks and trails to help with your training. Get out in nature. Just get outside. I think everyone would be happier if we were outside more.
When I worked at Runner's World, we had all these rules about, the proper way to run on a treadmill and and I can't even remember them, but I feel like, you were supposed to raise it 2% or increase your speed in order to mimic the running outside effect. Is there any truth to any of those?
I mean, the fact remains when you're on a treadmill, you're running in place. You are keeping up with a belt. You are not learning how to use gravity to your advantage or getting your body weight forward because you're just really running in place. So yes, elevating it to somewhere between 3 to 5% does mimic having to keep your body weight forward, but it's not the same thing at all. And when people say, well, I run differently when I'm on a treadmill, you shouldn't. Running is running. You should be running the exact same way, but you're not chasing a rabbit, as I call it, on a treadmill when you're outside on the ground.
And 17 degrees. 20's fine, but 15? No.
17's very specific. We like that.
I remember the day I figured it out. Like I was like, this is terrible. And it was 17 degrees. And I tried it the next day and it was 20. And so then I kind of went back and forth between 17 and 20 and landed on 17.
That's like, when you tell your running partner, okay, I'll be at your house at 5:32.
Yeah.
Not 5:30, not 5:35. I will be there at 5:32.
Sometimes those 3 extra minutes,
All the difference. Yes, yes, yes. Um, okay, so too often runners can get down on themselves for taking walk breaks, feeling like that's not something real runners do. I'm using air quotes on real. So let's end this ep with you busting that myth.
Oh man, that whole Nike ad where they said like runners welcome or runners welcome, walkers tolerated. I just was like, you know what? There are some people who walk faster than some people run. So don't bash walkers. And research is showing how great walking is for us, especially after menopause. So walking is just fine. I don't want anybody to ever be embarrassed that they're a walker. Now, can you take a walking break? Yeah, go ahead. There's a whole lot of people who do the whole walk run method. You know, you're still doing more than you're like in the 1% group. So congratulations for getting outside and doing something. I if someone really wants to work on their speed or reducing their time mileage or their how long it takes them to run a 5K, you do need to run more. You have to learn how to move your body faster. But if you're having a bad day and you just like are winded, you know, we just had all these fires in Minnesota that affected our air quality here in Illinois. People were sucking wind. And so it was fine. So you walk on those days and not be ashamed of that. But don't be afraid to push your running speed once in a while. Do some faster half mile repeats. But if you have to walk to recover from that, go ahead.
Nice, nice. Well, Denise, once again, it's been a delight to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us and for suggesting this topic.
Well, thanks for having me on. I love talking about all things running, so thanks for letting me nerd out.
Great. All right. Well, I think we probably could have done a second episode of that because I think there are just myths and misconceptions are rampant.
They never go away. And also, after listening to this, I want to go watch a Michael Jackson video and do some dancing.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks for listening. This podcast is a production of Another Mother Runner and Feisty Media. For more on Feisty and our other podcasts, events, workshops, and Feisty Fest, where I hope to see you this September in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, right near where you used to work, Tish, at Runner's World. Visit feisty.co. That's feisty.co.